Let me start by extending our congratulations to SSCC for this important and timely forum, which allows us to share with you from the United States our work in Malaysia and the Philippines with the indigenous and the stateless people on a critical issue of stopping fish bombing. It's a pleasure to work with Victor again. It's been a while. We started working together on South-South Cooperation Council when it first started, but we have a history that also goes back further, and it had to do with the Northern Sea Route. And so it's been a pleasure to work with them all along, and I'm really pleased that we're invited to participate in this because we're a little bit different, right? We're in the Northern Hemisphere, but we also have problems, and that those problems really affect the indigenous and the stateless people. They're really the maritime seafarers who, for hundreds of years, they live on their boats. They don't go out and on land. They may tie up close to land, but that's it. So it's a very different um, organization. And one of the really confusing things is that there's some of them that are called stateless, and that's what they're called in Malaysia. And then indigenous in the Philippines on the island that my technical advisor and operational support, Terrence Lim, and he'll be showing a video and provide more background. Um, so when I asked the question, well, what really determines which ones they are? And it's kind of a not very tightly disciplined kind of approach in terms that you can be stateless, you can be indigenous, or you can also be close to stateless. That was a third category that I didn't know about. So for the stateless people, it's very, they don't, everything has to be by documentation in most of the countries, right, that you're in order to go to the hospital, in order to get schooling, and if you don't have documents, you can't go. You can't go to the hospital. And as a matter of fact, if you do go, Terrence was telling me that they're actually charged like almost 100% more than the citizens that live there. And you'll see in Terrence's video that, and that, by the way, I just wanted to note that that was sponsored and paid for by the ambassador from Germany to Malaysia, because he really wanted to raise make people aware of the plight of the stateless people and indigenous people also. So with that, what we have learned is that, and there's a picture that shows what's happened since World War II that it shows a bomb, and you see the explosion, and this is why it's called fish bombing, because they're really bombing the fish, and it isn't just the one or two fish. There's a circle of death around that area, and then all you see are these little parts floating around, or stunned fish that come to the surface and you can grab them. And if they're turtles, you also lose them. So the other really biggest problem is the destruction of the coral reefs. This is where the fish breed. This, this is their nesting place. And once that's gone, the fish are gone. And we had a very interesting working with a group out of Indonesia, that is I don't want to mention the name, but they are just focused on restoring the coral. Well, what happens when you restore the coral? The fish bombers come back and start bombing again. And so what we learned also by taking some measurements, sound measurements, that the number of blasts that are happening are at least as much as they were before this coral restoration happened. So that's really the main issue that we have. What we learned as we went along, uh, first of all, we were just focused on technology, and the technology is to transfer the gunfire detection system that's used in systems and cities and apply that to the marine environment and use that because it's the same effect. It's bombs, it's loud noises. And we were able to develop the technology that can identify where the blasts are coming from within minutes, notify marine enforcement units because they need to respond very quickly. The fish bombers don't just sit there and, oh, okay, we'll sit some longer. They know that they'll get caught. And especially if the marine enforcement team comes in with their big patrol boat, because what that means, all the fish bomber has to do go into the very shallow area and kind of wait them out until the patrol boat leaves. So we've shown that it can be done, but what we also learned is that technology alone can't solve it. And we then worked with the marine enforcement so that they would know the kind of warnings that they're getting and how quickly they're getting it. And so Terrence, as a matter of fact, just had a meeting with the World Wildlife Federation, Malaysia, where he again trained their teams on the kind of information that's coming in. The most important part that we have learned is that it is really critical to engage the community. And that took a while because we were so focused on the technology, and then we were getting the marine enforcement people all set. And the next step really had to do with the community and Terrence had spent a lot of time in the community. He visited the stateless people, their boats, and was very familiar with them. And what then happened is on the islands, all of a sudden, we hear a report that there was a citizen's arrest because the guy said, "Hey, this guy is bombing." That would have never happened before because they didn't believe in this system. They didn't believe, not the system. They didn't believe that there could be a tool that can really stop that. And then another lady and identified her neighbor and said, she has all the bomb making material. And so that's really the community engagement. Then also in the Philippines, we're working with a group that takes the children from the stateless people, indigenous people, and trains them and talks to them. And so our step here is to really get the children involved and be familiar with what really happens there. And with this fish bombing, the fish bombing takes away their food. And that's not a good thing. They don't want to be they don't want to be uh, hungry, as we all feel the same way here. Um, the other problem is that the fish bombing really is an industrial scale activity where these people come in from other countries and they have a mother boat, and then they have maybe 12 little day boats, and then they bomb away. And so you can see the scale of destruction that's going on. And the really sad part is the killing range of everything that's in there. And so not all the fish can then be the fish that are really blasted apart. They're then taken to the market to be used for bait. What is our answer? Well, what we found out is that the fish bombers don't sit in one place. They quickly learn where our fixed systems are at and avoid those. And as a result, we had to find a new way of covering areas where our sensors were not at. And so we have two small autonomous surface vessels. They're big enough to fit in your trunk, but they go on their own and they have the capability to detect the blasts up to 30 miles away. And so we're surprising the fish bombers now because they will not know where these are at. They can be programmed to go in a pattern or go just on their own searches and stay in there. So it's a very important thing for us to use those autonomous surface vessels to keep the fish bombers at bay. But the other really important thing is the work through the community and working with their children so that they understand, what's going on. And there is a technology that something can be done about this. Um, and in the past, we have detached our sensors to the Bajau Laut boats. And so they're really kind of like a hidden thing. They don't anticipate the bombers look at the boats and say, "Okay, we've seen them before," but they don't realize that they have sensors. So our engagement really is with the stateless people. I would like to conclude by stating that we much look forward to continue working with SSCC on the follow-up of this forum and look forward to participating actively at the sequel to this forum in the Philippines in 2026.